Good morning, ESL 5. Today is Thursday, May 7th. We are doing number 49, the Gettysburg Address. The instructions. Read and annotate the article, then complete the ELA writing and quiz. Today we are going to read at level 880. See how that goes. Now, today we're reading a speech by Abraham Lincoln. Because the level is different, it's not his exact words. Sometimes they made the words a little easier to understand because at that time in history, their English was more complicated. It wasn't the same type of English that we use today. So it's modified to be a little easier. If 880 is still too difficult to understand, go down to 600. That's totally fine. So here is a picture of some soldiers and President Abraham Lincoln giving his address, which means his speech, in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. So remember, Gettysburg is a place. That was the name of a town or a location in Pennsylvania. Really, this is only about 2 or 3 hours away from New York, and if you're driving a car. All right. So here in the italics, this is the editor's note, what they are saying about the article or about the speech. So let's start with that. In November 1863, President Abraham Lincoln was invited to deliver a speech at the official dedication ceremony for the National Cemetery of Gettysburg in Pennsylvania. The speech later became known as the Gettysburg Address. It was given in the same place as one of the bloodiest, hard-fought battles of the Civil War. In the Battle of Gettysburg, more than 50,000 Americans were either killed or injured. So this place was, when he came and gave the speech, it was in Gettysburg when they were opening a cemetery. This is a cemetery mostly for soldiers because it was the bloodiest battle, one of the bloodiest battles in the Civil War. What does that mean? It means the most people died. Bloodiest meaning the blood comes out of people. So many soldiers died in this battle between the North and the South during the Civil War. Over 50,000 people were killed or injured, like they lost a leg or an arm or something like that. Now, what I'm going to read today is his speech, or the edited version of his speech. So this is him talking in 1863, okay? So when he says 87 years ago, he's talking about in the late 1700s. He's not talking about in the 1900s. Let's start. 87 years ago, our founding fathers created a new nation on this land. The country was born out of the freedoms that we fought for. It was dedicated to the idea that all men are created equal. Remember, founding fathers? These were the men that wrote the Declaration of Independence, that fought in the Revolutionary War against England to become an independent country. Also remember, they say men here. In English, that can mean men and women, but at that time, women did not have equal rights. They didn't even have the right to vote, so really, they actually mean men. So they meant men are created equal. That's changing, fortunately. Now, this nation is engaged in a great civil war. The fighting between the North and the South is testing whether this nation, or any nation that shares our values, can last. Today, we stand on one of the great battlefields of this civil war. We have come to dedicate a part of this field as a final resting place for the soldiers who gave their lives here. They died so this nation might continue to live. It is right for us to honor them. Honor here means also to give respect. However, in a way, we cannot call these grounds holy or divine. Brave men fought here, and some lived and some died. Those who struggled here have already made this land holy. These soldiers did much more than we are able to do today. The world will not write or talk much about what we say here. The world will not remember what was said here for long. However, the world can never forget what the soldiers did here. It is us, the living, who are called here. We are called to do the unfinished work which our soldiers have begun so nobly. For these honored dead, we must increase our devotion to the cause that they died for. What does that mean here? For these honored dead, we must increase our devotion to the cause that they died for. It means to give respect to the people who died, and those soldiers who died. You have to be more devoted, more focused on creating one united country, the United States, not the Confederacy and the Union, one country with no slavery. We must make sure that these men shall not have died in vain, so that this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom. We must decide that the government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not disappear from the earth. So 2 things here. We saw this phrase, to die in vain. We saw it this week already. This is the second time we're seeing this. It's important to know, if you say someone dies in vain, it means they died for no good reason. So if someone dies and they sacrifice themselves, they are not dying in vain if it was for a good reason. So if someone died in vain, it meant nothing changed because of their death. There's no reason for them to die. Sometimes a person's death can help us, and that's really sad, but that's true. So if soldiers are fighting in a war, and then there's a successful, good outcome from this war, then they did not die in vain. They died with a purpose. But if they did die in vain, they died for no good reason with no purpose. Let's look at the last sentence. We must decide that the government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not disappear from the earth. Shall means like will. So this sentence is talking about democracy, a type of government that is decided by everyday people, that has representatives or people voting directly, and it's made up of the people, not the higher class, not only the rich people. So he's saying we must continue to have this type of government, and we need to be careful not to let it disappear. Let's go to our activities. We have ELA writing. Do not do social studies. We are in ELA, English Language Arts. We're going to write. What's our question? We are in ESL 5. Write a short paragraph that explains the main idea of President Lincoln's speech. Use details from the article to support your response and write in your own words. So basically, you're trying to give a summary explaining what's Abraham Lincoln's message. What's the purpose of him giving this speech? Why is he talking? What is he saying? Just give me a few sentences, a good paragraph, 4 to 7 sentences, and give me details from here by writing your own words. Don't Google how to answer this question. If you have questions, talk to me on Remind.